He's in the audience.
Right. Hi.
So thank you. It's good to see you all here today. I know one or two councillors. I met Paul at the Estuary Fest. Good to see you there a few months back. And I know a number of the other councillors as well. So thank you for being here and giving me this opportunity. I understand from the information sent out by the officers that you will have read my submission, and in this verbal presentation I should focus on the main points. So I'm going to start by saying that I'm opposed to the sale of up to $750 million worth of assets for two main reasons, and I want to talk about those later on. But before I do that, I just want to say something about being here today. I'm not speaking on behalf of any organisation, and I've never done anything like this before. I'm representing myself and my partner, but we've been motivated by what's been happening in the city to make an effort and say something. I lecture at Lincoln University, and one of the things that I try to do up front with classes is to explain the importance of speaking up. I use the number 14, which, if I remember rightly, is the factor the BBC uses to multiply complaints about particular programmes. For me, this means that about a quarter of the class is not understanding something I say. You'll have your own ideas about how representative what I'm saying is, but I guess you'll have all watched the piece on Campbell Live yesterday. And I also remember Leanne speaking when she was MP for Christchurch East, speaking really eloquently about how it's important that the community own the recovery. So this brings me to my first point, which is related but separate. It's not about who should be in control of the rebuild, which I think we're all agreed on, but about your role in representing us. You were the first council to be elected when the nature of the recovery was becoming apparent to us, the citizens. So I think that gives you a mandate that the previous council didn't have. At least 6 of you stood on a platform which was of not selling assets. So whatever you think of the pros and cons of the specific assets, I think it's very clear that there's a significant proportion of the population which would prefer to keep them if at all possible. Of course, we're in a very difficult situation and we need to make compromises. But as a starting point, I think it is clear that the council should continue to look after and husband these assets which have been built up over many years. Which brings me to my second point, which is what is the situation that we are in? Well, obviously difficult, but the $1.2 billion shortfall is only the best estimate we have at the moment. It is actually very uncertain, as you state in your own document. Given this, I would ask, wouldn't it be better to be a little more cautious about budgeting about what we can spend over the next 10 years? On page 16 of the consultation document, it is stated that you're proposing an ambitious spending plan, and I understand your desire to get on with the rebuild. But in reality, it's progressing more slowly than people had planned for. And even the Crown is pushing out delivery of some of its commitments. Selling assets might be a good proposition if the capital raised was going to make a significant contribution to the overall budget. But in fact, the proposal is to sell almost half the assets to cover a mere 7% of the total, which is itself very uncertain. This seems to me like somebody selling their car and all their furniture to pay for a big house, which they can't really afford. The better solution would be to build a smaller house, or in our case, to take longer over it. This obviously means making difficult decisions about priorities, but I think there's a pretty clear consensus over what those items are that we need in the short term and those that we can take longer to achieve. In summary, I believe that you as a council were given a very clear steer about preserving the city's assets, and that given the uncertainty over the true costs, it would be very prudent, it would be prudent to actually maintain these, and at least until the true picture of our financial needs is known. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone?
Just a very quick one.
Yep.
Just on the selling half our assets, that's not quite true. Our total balance sheet has assets of about $12 billion. So you mean half of our commercial assets?
Okay. I was using the figures that I found in the document. Yeah, 40. I think it was about 44%.
Yep. Phil.
Thank you, Roland. The other thing I think you refer, what we've got in front of us written down on our page 104 is about scaling back the program of work. Any, from your understanding, any suggestions or comments about how we might do that?
Well, that's a really difficult question, and really I haven't been elected to answer that question, whereas you guys have been. That's your job.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. You've heard some good submissions today. Actually, I've been listening in from the back. There have been some good submissions today about what are the important things that people see, and they are about people, about what people want, and that people can make use of, and people can use in their day-to-day lives. It gives meaning to their lives. I mean, I was at the court yesterday. I don't know if you've been to see the constellations. If you haven't, go to it. It was excellent. That's what gives meaning to people's lives, those sorts of things. It's not necessarily about big ticket items. I know we're not paying for all the big ticket items, but it is about meaning and about giving something to communities so that those communities can thrive.
Bringing joy to people's lives, I think that's what we should be focused on. Anyway, we're at the lunch break, but we're behind time. So, sorry? Yeah, I know. But there were a couple of things that happened today that we weren't expecting. That submission should really not have got through the system. But anyway, we had a very sad submission earlier on that shouldn't really have been caught up in this process. Anyway, so now what are we going to do, team? What time are we going to come back? Because, sorry, we've got food out the back, so we'll start again at 1 o'clock. So we're back on track. We'll start back on track, on time. Okay? Yeah. Yep. But there is food out the back, so people can help themselves.